explain a little bit about what I'm doing. I made this 4-bar loop just to provide a very bare bones framework for 4 different chords. I made it to address actually a question that one of my students in my virtual studio asked. David had a good question about dominant chords. It's actually more elaborate than I'm going to get into. He was asking about flat 9, dominant 7, flat 9 chords versus sharp 9, when and where and how to use diminished scales, altered scales, and I think it was related to a lesson on that. Just a quick little rule of thumb that can help you. When you see dominant 7, flat 9, you can't go wrong really using the diminished, the half whole diminished scale. So this is different than if you saw a chord that said like C sharp diminished, then you would start the diminished scale and you would go whole step, whole step, etc. But when you see C sharp 7, flat 9, you want to play diminished starting with a half step. So C sharp, D, E, F. Okay, so you're going to get the flat 9 and the sharp 9, but you're also going to get the natural 5th. It's a symmetrical 8-note scale. So when in doubt, check the melody that this chord goes along with and see what's going on in the 5th or the 6th. Are they natural? Because the diminished half whole scale has a natural 5th and a natural 6th. It's symmetrical. Michael Brecker famously used this to a great degree, this scale. That's very reductive to say like, oh, Michael Brecker just did everything was this. I'm not saying everything Michael Brecker did was this scale. I'm saying there are many examples of him playing the you-know-what out of permutations of this scale. The other version, when you see a dominant chord with a sharp 9 after it, that's a good indication that it might be the altered scale. And again, you want to check for the 5th because the altered scale is a 7-note scale. It's not symmetrical. There are a couple different ways you can think of it. You can think of it as the altered scale and learn it as such. You can recognize that it's the 7th mode of melodic minor, so you could think about it that way. You could think about going up a half step from the dominant chord you're on. So if the chord says C sharp 7, sharp 9, just go up a half step, D, and play a melodic minor scale, right? C sharp, anyway. So again, check the melody. The altered scale alters all the notes. There's not a natural 5th and 6th. They are altered, all right? So those are the main differences, a good place to start. Now back to the Lydian dominant thing. But he was running into some difficulty trying to use the Lydian dominant scale with a 7 sharp 9 chord. And that, you know, these alterations to dominant chords, they can be very confusing because it's not one size fits all. Let me just give you a couple ideas about where common places to use Lydian dominant and where you're likely to hear it. I think it'd be good to be on the hunt for it in a few of these places. And once you begin to recognize the sound, boy, it's like, it becomes pretty easy to recognize it. I took a couple notes. Part of me wanted to make this a very fancy graphics thing and have musical examples for everything, but then I was like, I'm never gonna get around to it. It's gonna take too long, so I won't make the video. I won't share this with you. And, you know, like YouTube's gonna flag it if I use music anyway. So here we go. You can pause this. You can take a screenshot, take a picture. And I'm gonna do my best to try to talk backwards looking at this mirror image. So Lydian dominant, typically seen as a 7th chord with a sharp 11 following it. Where the heck does it come from? Well, one good place to think of it as coming from it's the 4th mode of a melodic minor scale. That's right, melodic minor scales have modes just like major scales have modes, and we're most familiar with the major components of it, 2, 5, 1, you know, it's all like Dorian, Mixolydian, Ionian, but, you know, just like if we were in G major, 1, major 7, 2, minor 7, but Dorian. 3, minor 7, but Phrygian. 4, major 7, but Lydian. 5, Mixolydian, dominant. 6, minor, but Aeolian. 7, Locrian. Okay, those are the 7 modes of major, but now if we go to minor instead, and basically if we start those Greek names I'm yelling out, that's like what you call the scale if you start it from that note in that key. Now let's go G minor. G minor, major 7. So the ascending version of G melodic minor, that's what I just played there. If we modal that up, 1 minor, major 7, 2, minor 7, 3, major 7, sharp 5, 4, dominant, but C, E, G, B flat has an F sharp in it because we're on the 4th mode of G melodic minor. So if we play a G melodic minor starting from its 4th degree, C, we get Lydian dominant. So just to kind of keep this sort of brief, if I possibly can, that's the 4th mode of melodic minor. Here's some reference points. I have 2-7, and I don't know why I wrote that. What I mean is, well, yeah, no, that is what I mean, but I also mean, it could be confusing. 2-7, which is also 5 of 5, just to be a little clear about this. So in a key, let's just take the key of F. You're in the key of F. F is 1, G is 2. And it would be minor in a major key. In F major, G is minor. So 2 dominant 7, all of a sudden that becomes what? Where do you get the B natural from? So we're going to move around a little bit here. But that G7 is the dominant of C7, and C7 is the dominant of F. So in the key of F, 2-7, it's a secondary dominant. It's the 5 of 5, or sometimes 2-7. Reference points for this. Take the A train, okay? Ba ba da ba be da. Let's do that again because that was rough. Ba ba da ba ba. Right? How about what have we got here? Girl from Ipanema. Nearly an identical A section to Take the A Train. I remember the song though. Ba ba da starts on the 9. Ba ba da 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 ba da 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 da. Right? There it is. Girl from Ipanema. Just Friends. Ba 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 do be da be be do de do de be do de do 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 da 2 dominant 7 ba do 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 da da. Right? I think. Always check me on these things. Do your homework. There Will Never Be Another You. Ba da ba 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 di ba do da ba da ba da ba ba da boo di ba da ba ba be ba da 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 ba be ba da da ba 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 ba. 2 dominant 7. Lydian dominant scale goes right there until that part right there. But that's where you find it. Cherokee. Ba be da da dee da be da dee da da ba da da ba da. I think I passed it. Ba-da-da. Let's see. Key is in B flat. Ba-do-do-dee-da. Ba-do-da-da-da. Ba-do-boo. Be-da. Be-da. Ba-da-da-da-da. So that's where it comes there. Ba-da-ba-be-da. Ba-da-da. All right. It's all over the place. Donna Lee. You know, that one is, it's hard to do one-handed, but we've been doing this actually this year in the studio, a whole bunch of stuff with Donna Lee. Ah, there it is. 5 of 5. Nope. What am I talking about? That's 5 of 2. Still a secondary dominant. Donna Lee doesn't fit exactly what I was thinking of. It's not too dominant. It's actually, this is actually 5 of 2, but that's okay. We'll just put some parentheses around that. Hopefully you get the idea. All right, again, look these things, do your own homework. But Blue 7 by Sonny Rollins is a much better way to get the sound of Lydian dominant in your ears than me singing it. I have a series of lessons around this song and Lydian dominant in the studio, lessons.bobreynoldsmusic.com. In case you weren't aware of that, you don't need that to get something out of this video. Just saying, if you want to go deeper and join us over there, there's a whole bunch of lessons on Blue 7 and Lydian dominant. Okay, moving on. Tritone substitution. This is where kind of like you could run into trouble. So let's pop over here. So here I have this progression that we've been listening to. 1 major 7, 2 dominant 7, 2 minor 7, and 5-7, okay? Now, I'm gonna go through these step by step, but if you were trying to use a C Lydian dominant scale here, that wouldn't work. Whereas if you use a G Lydian dominant scale, it works just fine. So it works on that secondary dominant over the 2 dominant 7, it works great. That's kind of like analogous to all the songs I was just referencing. So, and then this leads to here, and this, if you flip this scale around, man, you could just, so many fun things start happening. It's a doorway to fun. In fact, that's why I wrote this, or I drew this terrible doorway to fun. That's a sun, or it was supposed to be a sun. It actually looks like somebody punched a hole in a box, but that could be fun too. That's also a doorway to fun if you think about it. Where was I? So yeah, G Lydian dominant, which is the same as D melodic minor, like we talked about over here, right? It's the fourth mode of it. So that works great there. But then G minor, and then over to C7, you don't want to use Lydian dominant based on C. However, you use the tritone substitution, which would be F sharp, a tritone away from C. And what is the benefit of the tritone substitution? It gives you all these lovely alterations while maintaining the important guide tones of what's the third and the seventh here becomes the seventh and the third here. B flat is the seventh here, but it's the third here. E is the third here, but it's the seventh there, right? I said I was going to talk fast, but you can pause and rewind. So the tritone sub, now this scale here, it's a dominant scale, but we sharp the 11, we make it Lydian. And again, so that's F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C sharp, D sharp, E. I like to think of it enharmonically in those nutso keys. For me, that becomes F sharp, A flat, B flat, C, C sharp, E flat, E, if you can believe it. That's how I think about it. It's easier that way. But that's a Lydian dominant scale, okay? Now, if you start that Lydian dominant scale on its fourth degree, C natural, B sharp, right? What do you get? Well, you get the seventh mode of C sharp melodic minor. So again, back to this melodic minor thing, the mode and understanding it, it leads you back here to the doorway of fun, okay? The doorway of fun is when you begin to rearrange these things and see what's not all written out for you here. You see the verticality and the horizontal, the linearity all at once. I'm really off my beaten path here now, but that's where I'm using Lydian dominant here. So when I practice, back to this idea of like, hey, how I'm gonna use this in practice. I have a loop here, and the benefit of just looping this sucker over and over is that I can go a little deeper each time. I can course correct. I can try something again if I felt like it didn't work on the last go around, and I can try something new. I can think differently about the same territory that I'm going over, as opposed to just going through a tune top to bottom, and it's like new information, new information, new information. This gives my synapses in my sort of nervous system a chance to start not only collecting, but interpreting and processing and utilizing this data, and hopefully in a musical way. All right, so that's what I'm practicing when I'm doing that. That's what's going on, and that's two good places to use the Lydian dominant scale. That's weird.